Sudbury. Sudbury riding. I'm not as organized as you. Yeah, they do. They do. But it maybe is somewhat. You know? Like okay, sounds good.
Aujourd'hui, le scout en chef nous présente faire du kayak à Sudbury. Faire du kayak, il faut un kayak, plus de sauvetage et beaucoup de courage.
High tide like 1,000 times.
Oh no, I think the only time I really hear you is when you're screaming and running away from girls.
No, I'm chasing them because they hate
Comme dirait Céline, ah, the cage, that sucks.
me. Yep. How did you say that? Oh, okay, never mind.
Alright, man, that's good. Put this somewhere else. I told you not to have that. I don't want it there though.
Salima. Salima. Thank you. Hello.
I'm here. There's like I don't know what my spot is. You can probably go to it's these border cars. And yeah, so Sophia was sitting there. Sophia is sitting here. Someone was sitting here.
So at school, you're not too
Sal.
cold, I hope?
La Salle? Yeah.
Warmed up a bit?
Just go in a straight line and go back and land it. There was, they gave me the wall though. I still got a plate in it, but.
Vote one.
If it wasn't like leaving the cast on. That's awesome. Yeah. Jesse.
Oh ja, daar horen we.
Sir.
Thank you.
No, I wasn't. I do though. It was like I don't have to turn it. So I did.
Other than jeans, I don't have to kind of pants. Shorts and jeans. And it's only break up. Your light is on mark.
Thank you.
What's that?
No, I'm just
Can I plug into this?
I got lunch. It's almost lunch. What time do you start? Yeah. Starts at 8:30. You want me to silence your phone there, bud? No, I'm in it. I'm in grade 10. So that's the sun, right? Yeah. We usually just get this time, and then we have with combat sun. So we bring our own sun. Behind the scenes of movies. Pretty much what a movie like. So bright. Like the action is so productive. So on a full day sun, you get two. Pretty cool. I wish, yeah. If you're right on the phone, we actually would do like yeah. I just need those. Oh yeah? Okay, cool. Alright, thanks a lot. Okay. Octavia. That's a shot.
Grandmothers are not even
We didn't put a jacket on.
Bonjour tout le monde. It is great to be back in Northern Ontario, joined by our strong Liberal team. Of course, you all know Paul Lefebvre. He's a passionate community leader, and he'll continue to be a strong voice for Sudbury in Ottawa for the years ahead. Merci d'être ici, Paul. This morning, I was able to do a little canoeing on Lake Laurentian with some local kids. Anytime I get out for a paddle, I'm reminded of just how beautiful Canada is. I say it all the time, but we really do live in the best country in the world. Nature, from our gorgeous lakes to our towering mountains, is a huge part of Canadian identity. It makes us who we are. Canadians get the importance of preserving our environment for our kids and grandkids. Too many Conservative politicians don't. Here in Ontario, you've seen firsthand what happens when the Conservatives give up on the environment. Doug Ford fired Ontario's chief scientist. He got rid of Ontario's cap and trade program, which funded energy efficiency initiatives for homeowners, renters, and businesses. He cut funding for flood management programs by 50%, and he canceled a program to plant 50 million trees, forcing our Liberal government to step in to save it. Well, we shouldn't be surprised, because that's just what Conservative politicians do. They cut taxes for the wealthy and the big polluters and cut services for everybody else. And now Andrew Scheer, who's vowed that his first act as Prime Minister would be to make pollution free again, wants you to double down on Conservative politicians. Twice the tax breaks for big polluters and the wealthy, and twice the cuts for you and your family. While Doug Ford focuses on a buck of beer, there are grade 12 students that might not graduate this year because there aren't enough teachers to offer courses they need. Doug Ford cut Ontario's pharmacare program, a program that was focused on helping our most vulnerable kids and young adults. Think about that for a second. Cuts to the environment, to education, to health care. Ontario can't afford to double down on the Conservatives. Liberals are for moving forward, for you and for your family. And that includes protecting our environment and fighting climate change. When we were elected in 2015, about 1% of Canada's oceans and coastlines were protected. Now, just 4 years later, that number is at almost 14%. Our government invested $1.35 billion to protect Canada's land and freshwater, the largest nature conservation investment in our history. In the last 4 years, we've conserved land equal to 3.5 times the size of Nova Scotia and created the largest national urban park in North America. We've also worked in close partnership with Indigenous peoples in our conservation efforts, including the Decho in the Northwest Territories. Mais malgré le progrès qu'on a réalisé pour protéger et préserver notre environnement, on sait très bien qu'il faut en faire plus, pour notre génération et pour la prochaine. C'est pourquoi je suis heureux d'annoncer aujourd'hui qu'un gouvernement libéral réélu travaillera avec les différents ordres de gouvernement, les propriétaires de terrain, le monde des affaires et les peuples autochtones pour conserver 25% de nos terres et 25% de nos océans d'ici 2025. D'ici 2030, on visera 30% de nos terres et 30% de nos océans. Tout au long du processus, notre démarche sera guidée par le savoir et les expériences des peuples autochtones qui sont les gardiens du patrimoine naturel du Canada depuis des millénaires. And as we protect our environment, we also want to ensure that young people, newcomers and families who might not often get out to explore our parks get opportunities to appreciate and enjoy the very best of what Canada has to offer. Now, the people in this beautiful part of the country know firsthand how great it is to spend your weekends camping. The joy of roasting marshmallows with the kids or jumping into the lake on a hot summer day, you just can't beat it. But not all Canadians are so lucky, and we want to change that. That's why a re-elected Liberal government will expand the Learn to Camp program so that by the time they reach grade 8, all Canadian kids will have had the opportunity to experience camping and learn important outdoor skills. We'll also create a national Experience Canada program so that each year 75,000 kids who qualify will get to enjoy up to a 4-day adventure with their families in one of Canada's national or provincial parks. Because we have listened to the courageous voices of our youth who are demanding that their governments take bold action to protect our nature for future generations. And we know that we raise environmental champions by helping the next generation experience Canada's natural beauty firsthand. My friends, a new Liberal government will continue down the path of conservation and environmental protection. Because we know the best way to serve Canadians is to make life more affordable today and plan ambitiously for tomorrow. Our team will increase access to before and after school care. We'll make sure every Canadian has access to a family doctor, to mental health services, and to national pharmacare. We'll ensure that all Canadians can take paid family leave when they have a baby. We'll cut taxes for the middle class and those working hard to join it, unlike the Conservatives, who will cut taxes for the wealthiest few. On va réduire les factures de cellulaire de 25%. On va vous aider à acheter votre première maison et on va donner plus d'argent aux aînés pour leur retraite. On va réduire les taxes, les frais administratifs et la paperasse pour les petites et moyennes entreprises. On va couper de moitié l'impôt des entreprises qui produisent des technologies à zéro émission pour faire du Canada un leader dans le domaine et lutter contre les changements climatiques. On va aider les Canadiens à réduire leurs factures énergétiques, accroître l'efficacité énergétique de leur maison et leur donner le soutien dont ils ont besoin suite aux catastrophes naturelles. Et aujourd'hui, on dévoile une autre partie importante de notre plan libéral, des mesures plus robustes pour protéger nos terres et nos eaux, et un nouveau programme pour encourager plus de familles à faire du plein air. Le 21 octobre, les Canadiens ont un choix important à faire. Est-ce qu'on va revenir aux politiques inefficaces du passé ou est-ce qu'on va continuer d'avancer? Unlike the Conservatives, Liberals won't give tax breaks to the 1% or to big polluters. What we will do is make life more affordable and fight climate change. That's what we're offering, a real plan to move forward for everyone. Merci beaucoup tout le monde. Je suis heureux de prendre des questions. Oui, Abigail.
Abigail Beeman, Global News. How can you commit to 25% by 2025 when you don't yet have a plan or mapping that shows which areas you're going to protect?
When we took office in 2015, only 1% of Canada's coastal and ocean areas were protected. We engaged with provinces, with territories, with municipalities, with Indigenous communities, and we went from 1% protection to 14% protection in just 4 years. We know that not only can we protect 25% of our land and 25% of our oceans by 2025, but we must. It is an essential part, not just of protecting biodiversity, not just of fighting climate change, but of also ensuring that future generations have the opportunities that we've had growing up and the economic opportunities that come with biodiversity and better investments in ecotourism and tourism in general. We know that this is the path forward for Canada, and that's why we're going to do it.
Your original promise was to protect 17% of freshwater and land by 2020, and yet you're still at 12%. 5% is a lot to make up. How will you get there by next year?
The original plan was to protect 10% of our coastal areas and oceans, and we are past that at 14% in 4 years. And you're right. The goal was to do that by 2020, so we're 1 year ahead of schedule on protecting our oceans. In regards to land, we are on track to protecting 17% by the end of next year on schedule, because we know that protecting our nature, protecting our land for future generation, protecting our waters in partnership with Indigenous peoples is about fighting climate change, and it's about protecting the future. Nous nous sommes engagés à protéger 10% de notre littoral et de nos océans d'ici 2020 et nous avions protégé 14% déjà cette année, 1 an à l'avance. Par rapport aux protections terrestres, on va protéger 17% avant la fin de l'année prochaine, comme on s'est engagé à le faire. Mais on sait qu'on doit faire plus. C'est pour ça qu'on va protéger 25% de nos terres et 25% de nos océans d'ici 2025.
Sur les candidats, il vous en manque encore. Il manque encore 4 ou 5 candidats. Le NPD l'a déjà fait, les conservateurs l'ont déjà fait. Qu'est-ce qui se passe? Avez-vous des problèmes d'organisation?
Au contraire, on va avoir d'excellents candidats à travers le pays. Je peux souligner les candidats excellents qu'on a ici aujourd'hui, qui vont continuer de bien servir, pas juste ici à Sudbury, mais à travers le nord de l'Ontario. Et nous allons présenter 338 candidats extraordinaires aux Canadiens pour les élections le 21 octobre. We have a great team of candidates from coast to coast to coast who are focused on choosing forward, focused on investing in Canadians and in our future by supporting the middle class and people working hard to join it. I'm surrounded by great candidates from this area who are going to be continuing to be great voices for Northwestern Ontario. At the same time, I look forward to presenting 338 extraordinary candidates to Canadians on October 21st.
Mais comment ça se fait que vous n'avez pas tous vos candidats? On est à 5 jours de la date limite.
On va avoir 338 candidats à travers le pays pour bien représenter cette vision d'aller de l'avant.
Can you confirm in your conversation with Eva Nassif that you raised your fears of disunity in Liberal ranks after the fallout of the SNC-Lavalin affair?
I've had many great conversations with all members of our caucus and all of our MPs. I had many good conversations with Madame Nassif, but I respect the choice and the decision made by our independent Green Light Committee that follows the rules laid out by the Liberal Party and assesses whether people are qualified to be candidates for us in this election.
You didn't answer the question. It was whether you raised concerns about disunity, but I want to move on to another story. APTN's investigation says 48 Indigenous children died under your watch in the time it took your government to make necessary changes in funding. What accountability do you hold for that?
We know that there is so much more to do on reconciliation. We know that this is something that Canadians expect and something we have worked on very, very hard over the past 4 years. We've closed the gap on K-12 education in First Nations communities. Now, Indigenous kids get the same level of funding as kids in the provincial system. We've eliminated 87 long-term boil water advisories, and we're on track to lifting all the 50 some odd that remain on time. We're continuing to move forward with investments in healthcare and mental health, in community supports and economic opportunities, in infrastructure and programs for young people. But we know that there are still far too many tragedies ongoing in Indigenous communities, and that's why we must do more. That's why we've committed to doing more. Last night I made an announcement that commits to working with Indigenous communities on guaranteeing quality health care for Indigenous peoples right across the country. Moving forward on closing the gap on infrastructure right across the country. We recognize that there is much more to do, and we will keep doing it.
The point is about the death and care. The point is about the death and care.
Last night in Thunder Bay, you mentioned Doug Ford by name 5 times, Stephen Harper once, and Andrew Scheer not once. At a certain point, we understand the strategy here, but at a certain point, are you not misleading voters by campaigning against somebody who isn't even on the ballot and has different policies than Mr. Scheer?
Do you know who misled voters? Doug Ford said he was for the people, then turned around and cut services for everyone while cutting taxes for the wealthiest. And Andrew Scheer is putting forward exactly the same vision that Stephen Harper lost on in 2015 because Canadians made a different choice. And Andrew Scheer wants us to double down on the kinds of conservative leadership that we see from the Rocky Mountains to the Bay of Fundy that is fighting against action on climate change. And this week, Canadians and our kids are asking a lot of questions about climate change, having great conversations about how we're going to protect our environment. So I have a question for Andrew Scheer. Will he commit to banning single-use plastics? That's something he hasn't answered yet, and I think Canadians want to hear that.
Tomorrow in Montreal, will you be marching in the climate march? And if so, what message should you take from it?
There has been an extraordinary amount of mobilization by young people and by Canadians across this country and indeed around the world calling for real action on climate change. We have done a lot over the past 4 years. We brought in a price on pollution right across the country. We moved forward on banning single-use plastics, and Andrew Scheer still has to say whether or not he will ban single-use plastics. We're phasing out coal. We're investing in zero-emission vehicles. We're moving forward on protecting more of our nature, including with these ambitious announcements today. So I look forward to marching with thousands of Canadians tomorrow in Montreal, like people are marching right across the country and around the world to fight for the environment. Now, we know that the choice is clear in this election. The Conservatives are running against climate action. They don't think you need to do anything to fight climate change. And not only is that not going to protect our environment, that is not going to protect our kids' future, including their jobs. It is time for Conservatives to understand that the world is demanding climate leadership. We get that. They don't. And we will continue to step up. Okay. Ça fait plusieurs semaines maintenant que des jeunes et des gens à travers le pays, à travers le monde, réclament de l'action sur les changements climatiques. Marchent dans les rues pour souligner le besoin de prendre des actions réelles et concrètes pour contrer les changements climatiques et protéger notre environnement et créer de la croissance économique pour l'avenir. Et oui, j'ai hâte de marcher avec ces jeunes-là demain à Montréal. Pour parler des choses que nous avons faites, on a imposé un prix sur la pollution à travers le pays. On a banni les plastiques à usage unique, puis je soulignerais que ce serait une question que les gens auraient et les gens ont pour Andrew Scheer. Est-ce que lui, il va s'engager à bannir les plastiques à usage unique? Nous avons investi dans les énergies renouvelables. Nous avons protégé notre nature et nous allons continuer de le faire. Parce que je sais qu'il reste encore énormément à faire. Et le choix pour les Canadiens est très clair. Entre des conservateurs qui refusent d'agir pour contrer les changements climatiques et mettent donc pas seulement notre environnement à péril, mais notre avenir économique aussi.
Karina Roman, CBC News. After the SNC controversy, people talked about how that eroded trust in you and politicians. After the blackface controversy, you said you needed to earn back Canadians' trust. What can you do between now and Election Day concretely that would prove to Canadians that you are someone who is trustworthy?
I'm going to continue to focus on the things that Canadians care most about. Canadians, yes, care about fighting against intolerance and racism, and I will keep standing up against intolerance every single day. But I will also talk about how we're investing in families, investing in the middle class, instead of giving tax breaks to millionaires the way Andrew Scheer keeps proposing. We're going to stand against the cuts that Conservative premiers are making across the country on environmental protections, and we're going to keep fighting them in court to prevent them from making pollution free again. We are going to continue to focus on the future of this country the way Canadians expect their leaders to. And I'm going to continue to fight every day for better opportunities for all Canadians. That's what this election is about, and that's at the heart of the choice people are making.
Selima Shifty, CBC News. I want to go back to the wording that you've been using this week. You say we're on track to meet the 17% targets of protected land. You're not saying how. You also said we're on track to meet our Paris targets by 2030. Also not saying how, and experts have called that statement misleading. So how do you reconcile that, the misleading targets without details, with your claim that you're showing leadership on climate?
We inherited targets from the Conservatives that they had done absolutely nothing on. And in 4 years, we've reached 3/4 of the way to meeting those targets. Over the next 11 years, Canada will meet and indeed surpass our 2030 targets. But we know we need to do more. And that's why we've put forward concrete initiatives, from cutting taxes in half for innovative companies that create zero-emission technologies, to supporting Canadians with more money up front so they can retrofit their homes, improve their energy efficiency, and save money every single year. Today we're announcing that we're protecting more of our nature and encouraging young people to be, and empowering young people and families to get out and discover it even more so they continue to fight for a better future and a protected environment. And we know that protecting ecosystems and conserving nature is a key element in fighting against climate change. We have continued to move forward in meaningful ways to reduce emissions, and we know there's much more to do. But as I said, in 2015, people said the same thing. How are you going to protect 10% of our oceans and coastlines? There's only 1% protected now. How are you possibly going to do that? Well, not only did we meet that goal in 4 years instead of 5, but we surpassed it to 14%. The way we were able to do it is because we made a commitment to Canadians, and we kept that commitment. And the commitment we make today to protect 25% of our oceans and coastlines and 25% of our land areas by 2025 is not just an ambitious target, it's a necessary target to be able to protect the future of young Canadians.
Hi, Morgan Lowry, Canadian Press. Do you worry that the political dramas happening right now in Washington and in London risk pulling Canadians' attention away from domestic policies and even undermining faith in the democratic process?
I think some of the consequences of the populist tendencies that we've seen over the past few years in places like the UK and the United States are clearly on display for Canadians right now. What we put forward as a plan in 2015 and an approach that we continue with is not exacerbating fears or amplifying concerns and anxieties, but allaying them with a real plan to fight climate change, to make life more affordable for Canadians, to reduce crime by strengthening gun control, when the reality is our opponents want to lower taxes for the wealthiest, want to do nothing to fight climate change, and want to weaken gun control. This is the choice that Canadians are facing. And seeing the consequences of the politics of division and fear elsewhere around the world should both make them proud to be Canadian, where we make different choices, and remind them of the importance of the choice we are making in this election. Do we go back to the politics of division and fear and the politics of the Harper years with Andrew Scheer's plan? Or do we continue to choose forward? I'm for choosing forward. Okay. Nous reconnaissons qu'autour du monde, au Royaume-Uni, aux États-Unis, on voit les conséquences de politiques populistes, de division, de peur, d'exagération, d'anxiété. Et nous avons fait un choix différent au Canada dans ces dernières années. De rassurer les Canadiens, de reconnaître les anxiétés et de proposer des vraies solutions. Dans cette élection, les gens ont le choix de se tourner vers les politiques de division et de peur, comme faisait M. Harper, ou de continuer à choisir d'avancer, de choisir un gouvernement qui va investir plus dans la classe moyenne et pas donner des coupures d'impôts aux mieux nantis. Un gouvernement qui va continuer de lutter contre les changements climatiques avec un plan réaliste et ambitieux, ou des conservateurs qui ne veulent pas agir pour contrer les changements climatiques. Ou un gouvernement qui va continuer de resserrer le contrôle des armes à feu versus un parti conservateur qui veut affaiblir le contrôle des armes à feu. Sur tous ces enjeux-là, les Canadiens ont un choix très simple. Est-ce qu'on choisit de continuer d'avancer ou est-ce qu'on retourne en arrière?
Bonjour, Julien du Journal Le Voyageur. Est-ce qu'un gouvernement chose d'amener sur un autre terrain, est-ce qu'un gouvernement libéral s'engage à modifier rapidement la loi sur les langues officielles, comme le demandent les différentes associations des langues minoritaires?
Depuis plusieurs années déjà, on est là pour travailler avec les communautés de langue officielle en situation minoritaire à travers le pays. Et oui, on s'est engagé à revoir et à refaire et de renforcer la loi sur les langues officielles. Je sais que c'est une priorité que tout le monde cherche à avoir dans les communautés linguistiques minoritaires et on va continuer de travailler avec eux. Mais on voit très bien que là encore, le choix est très clair entre une approche conservatrice qui coupe dans les services francophones en Ontario ou un gouvernement libéral qui défendrait toujours cette dualité linguistique et ces communautés minoritaires linguistiques.
Darren McDonald, Sudbury.com. In 2015, you made promises about electoral reform, about balancing the budget, And I think you'd be hard-pressed to say that, you know, we saw a lot of sincere efforts in either one of those files. And I just wonder why Canadians should believe you're being sincere this time when you make certain promises.
We made a commitment to grow the economy by investing in Canadians. And that's exactly what we did. We invested in communities, we invested in infrastructure, we invested in the middle class and people working hard to join it, and the results speak for themselves. Canadians created over 1 million new jobs, most of them full-time, over the past 4 years, while at the same time, we were able to lift 900,000 people out of poverty, including 300,000 kids. We've moved forward on some of the most ambitious results ever in protecting our environment by any government in Canadian history, by moving forward on reconciliation in ways that are meaningful, tangible, and are showing results for Indigenous peoples right across the country in true partnership. And we've done so in a way that continues to be fiscally responsible. Our debt as a share of our gross domestic product will continue to decrease every single year under the Liberal plan. But again, if you choose not to take our word for it that we're fiscally responsible, you just need to look at the independent bond and credit rating agencies around the world like Moody's and S&P, who've granted only 11 countries their top-tier AAA rating for their fiscal sustainability and fiscal responsibility. And our government, and Canada, is one of them. We know that the choice Canadians made in 2015 was the right one. When faced with a choice between Conservatives proposing cuts and austerity as a way of creating growth, or our choice that was investing in communities and in the middle class, Canadians chose investment. And 4 years later, we have tremendous growth and results to show for it. And that's once again the choice that Canadians are facing. The Conservatives are proposing cuts and austerity. We are proposing investment because it's what's working to help Canadians, it's what's working to grow the economy, and it's what's working to build a better future for everyone.
Monsieur Trudeau, Frédéric Pepin pour Radio-Canada. Vous avez parlé d'eau potable dans les réserves autochtones. Vous étiez à Thunder Bay hier, Sudbury aujourd'hui. Les gens dans les réserves veulent entendre quel serait votre plan. Quel est le plan du Parti libéral pour régler la situation pour l'eau potable, pour l'accès à l'eau potable dans les réserves autochtones? Pour l'instant, ce sont des solutions qui ont été mises de l'avant pièce par pièce. Est-ce qu'il y a un plan d'ensemble chez vous, chez les libéraux?
Il y a 4 ans, on a annoncé, il y a 3 ans, on a annoncé notre plan pour éliminer les avis d'ébullition d'eau sur les réserves autochtones à travers le pays. 3 ans plus tard, on en a éliminé 87 et on est en voie d'éliminer les 50 autres d'ici la prochaine année et quart parce que c'est exactement ce qu'on avait promis, d'ici le printemps 2021. C'est un plan compréhensif qui fait les investissements nécessaires parce qu'on reconnaît que pour protéger les systèmes d'eau, ça prend des investissements en infrastructure, de la formation, des investissements dans les communautés, de l'éducation. Et on est en train de faire ces investissements-là. Parce que mais ce n'est qu'un exemple du travail qu'on est en train de faire et qu'il nous reste à faire en partenariat avec les peuples autochtones. Okay. We have eliminated 87 long-term boil water advisories in Indigenous communities across this country, and we are very much on track to eliminating the 50 or so that remain before the spring of 2021 deadline. And it's, of course, an important target in and of itself to make sure that everywhere across the country you can drink safe water from your taps. But it's also a commitment that involves investments in education, in training, in infrastructure in Indigenous communities that are so necessary and connected to it. That's why we are pleased that we are on track to lift them all, but we recognize that there is always more work to do with Indigenous peoples on the path to reconciliation and economic opportunity for all. Merci beaucoup tout le monde. Thank you all.